Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
The Daily Compliance News for March 28, 2025, the Cave or Go to Trial edition. And we begin with that story from the from the New York Post, which says that Acting Attorney General for New Jersey, Alina Habba, is on a potential collision course with a federal judge over the pause in FCPA enforcement. This, of course, relates to the Cognizant Technologies executives trial. The DOJ tried to delay this case for yet another 6 months while they, quote, evaluated, end quote, the case that's been going on since 2019. The judge is having nothing of it. He denied the motion and said, we're going to trial or dismiss the case. So will she cave in? Smart Money says yes. Next up from the Wall Street Journal business section, Sharon Turlop writes that Boeing has been sued for wrongful death by the family of the whistleblower. The family of Boeing whistleblower John Bennett has sued Boeing, accusing the jetmaker of harassing and intimidating the former quality manager after he complained of safety lapses. He was found dead of an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound in a car outside his hotel. The cause of death was determined to be suicide. Barnett had been giving a deposition in a lawsuit he brought against Boeing, accusing the company of retaliating him for raising quality questions. The weight of years of harassment, abuse, and humiliation became too much for John, and he took his own life. Boeing may not have pulled the trigger, but Boeing's conduct was the clear cause and the clear and foreseeable cause of the death, said the lawsuit. Boeing said it was saddened by his death and declined to comment. Next up from the New York Times, Brad Karp, the chairman of Paul Weiss, has said that he had to settle with Trump over the executive order or the firm would have been put in an existential crisis. But now it appears that within days of him caving in and agreeing to Trump, some of the biggest competitors of Paul Weiss have called the firm and see if lawyers want to jump ship. This is, I'm sure, an unintended consequence of Mr. Weiss's actions, but it's clear that many lawyers in the firm don't believe that his decision to cave into Trump was within the firm values that he espouses and that the firm has espoused over as long as I've been practicing law. So even if you do cave into Trump and agree, there are going to be negative consequences. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. And finally, from the Financial Times, a question about whether Lockheed's F-35 will become a casualty of Trump. Trump's actions against what used to be called U.S. allies obviously have been very disturbing, and now it looks like particularly the Europeans are going to cut back on purchases of U.S. armaments. So it's really a negative consequence to U.S. businesses, the tariffs, the innuendo, and frankly, the inane comments of the Trump administration on U.S. business going forward. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.